Welcome to episode 16 of Zero Basis Points. You have George as well as Haik here. I'm happy to see you. It's been a while. It's been a minute. George, how have you been?
I've been great. Yeah, it's time to do another podcast. So happy to be back doing this with you, man.
It's a natural feeling. It's a natural feeling. We always talk about this, but we talk so much offline about different stuff where I'm like, why aren't we doing this on the podcast? And then we're traveling and we had New York, which was amazing. And I saw your post about it. Really nice pictures, actually. No filter.
I posted another one of the city last night, which was just, when you're in the heart of Midtown at Christmas time, this time of year, I spend so much time, in New York during like my college years and, late 90s, early 2000s, that it's such a magical place to be. And I've been all over, the city, but Midtown at Christmas time, like I said, yesterday, it just hits, it's magical. So it was great to be back.
I remember the first time I went to New York was around Christmas time, actually, when I was living in Boston. So I took a train down, met some friends out down there, and I had family in town. My sister and her friends were coming in town as well for Christmas. It was their first time traveling to New York. So, showed them around a bit and everything. And then I had to go back to work, back to Boston. But it kind of cemented in me that I needed to be in New York at some point in my life. And that's one of the reasons I moved out after when I started with Adapar. And it was amazing. For the couple of years that I was out there, lived in Hell's Kitchen. I would walk into work right by Grand Central Terminal in Madison. It was amazing. It was honestly magical. Around the holiday time, you get all the tourists in as well, but it kind of does something in you where you're just like, you hit the ground running. And every time I go back into New York, it's always the same. So I love being there. It was awesome to be there with you as well. We got a lot done. So I'm looking forward to getting back around after the holidays too.
Yeah, I want to be there even more often than, weekly, no, got to get the residence. So we're up there a week and month at a time. But ever since I've been really going back, even into the summer, every time I go back, whether it's Christmas time or the end of the summer, fall, which it's always a beautiful time. It's just during like the pandemic year, I took such a break from going into the city. And then when you go back, you're like, I love this place. This is the best place in the world. And I've spent a lot of time all over this country, and there's no place from a work perspective. Like if you're going to spend your days working, and I like to spend my days working, it's either that or parenting, working a little bit easier. When you're in New York, it doesn't feel like work because everybody's hustling, everybody's busy. As soon as you wake up, you're ready to get started. Anybody complaining about a commute into the city, I understand that the train and if you're driving or a bus could get really old, but
Yeah.
there's like worse places that you could, if you're going into Manhattan, hopefully you're not just being, ground to the nub, but you can actually enjoy like a lunch or a dinner, most days that you can go in. It's really just the best place. I love it, man.
Yeah, and for me, one of the best things is the number of equinoxes they have in Manhattan. Just because
Right.
I think it's like 26 or 28 at this point. So wherever I am, I can just get a workout in. It's wild the number that they have because they've started. I think Hudson Yards is the most recent one they're building, or one of those. That's like the exclusive one, but the one right across from us, and on Park Avenue, like it's so clutch to just be able to come in red eye first thing, show up to the Equinox, work out, and then handle the rest of the day. So I got to get
Yeah.
you into that program soon.
Yes, I know. I go into New York and I don't work out in the city. I work, but I'm not doing exercise on those days. So kind of brings us to a good point to talk about the exercise updates. But
Yeah.
this week, I've been good about working out at least 3 times a week, usually 4 or 5. But I've been pretty consistent with that. And one of the things I've thrown in lately is just in the early morning, no matter what, just doing 100 push-ups, some squats that I throw in. I don't even count that as to what I'm doing, but I read throughout, I see out there that you should be doing like 200 push-ups a day. It is easy for me during my morning get ready routine to add in 100 push-ups, 4 sets of
That's awesome.
25. So
Yeah.
I like doing that and some squats and things like that. But yeah, in addition to the weights.
Nice. You know my cycle. So for mine, I have right now, I'm going into what I call strength week. So basically, I kind of complete my workouts, multi-week workouts. And then I go into strength week where I set up new personal records or try to hit a, a couple of nice 1 rep maxes. And I always, it's always nice to line it up with like the end of the year too, because just chronologically as well, you're like, all right, wrapping up this year and then go to get into something next. Yeah. So it's nice. It's kind of like an OCD thing. But I'm looking forward to it. This week's gonna be tough. So it's gonna be one of the probably heavier weeks. I think around like 4 plates plus on bench.
That's what I did this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, more than 500 pounds on the trap bar deadlift. Um, what else we got? Squat. I think it'll be a front squat actually, which is much more difficult than back squat for those who know. So we'll try to hit a new 1 rep max there. But anyway, long story short, it's going to be a pretty hectic week for me. Looking forward to it though, so we don't shy away from those. And I always, I don't know if we mentioned this on the last one because we were with Brad, but I always like to talk about the lifting as a proxy for a lot of other things in life, including just business. Because
I
I
love
think
it. Yeah.
yeah, Airbnb CEO was one of the first who came out and started putting like lifting numbers in there, and then it became kind of like a fad for more of the hard tech guys in Silicon Valley who are doing it. But someone, I forget his name, there was an article about a guy who constructed a benchmark of CEOs that lift, the companies that have CEOs who like deadlift and squat and do all this stuff, and it outperformed like the S&P 500. And I think I may have mentioned the name of it before or like had the article up on a prior episode, but it's pretty interesting. I think if you like to work out, you put yourself voluntarily in that type of pressure, then business, knock on wood, should be good, right? And you
Yeah.
don't shy away from business stuff.
I want to get right back into that. The way that you add weight, and that's something that you told me when I got out of more of kind of like Pete, my personal trainer, DiLorenzo, co-founder of Arca, got me into kind of like the CrossFit to get me going until I could graduate to weights. But now that I'm doing the weights, I still lift up my 2 younger kids. Like they're lighter. I feel stronger. My lower back doesn't hurt as much. My legs are tired from New York this week. The bottom of my feet hurt a little bit. Walked a lot,
Well,
but
it was like 16,000 steps by the time we were down, like 20,000 steps.
yeah,
So
even the next day, we walked from the office to the Four Seasons to Michael's back. So yeah, my leg, the bottom of my feet are hurting a little bit. But this year, one of the things I did was got into the weights. And this might be the last podcast. Hopefully, maybe one more. Maybe this is our holiday episode. But if I look back across the year, you got me into lift. You and Pete got me into lifting. And I'm in my late 40s. I'm 47 years old. And I was listening and I'm getting into shape. I used to go to the gym every day until the pandemic, let's say 5 days a week. Like I was gone before anybody got up. That was like kind of my move because I didn't want to be a part of the morning routine. So then the pandemic happened, and then you're forced into being part of the morning routine, which is just chaos, getting kids ready. So ideally, I'm gone, but came back and just stopped working out. But I got back into it, and it wasn't that hard. I had to commit, but I was listening to, and I say this because I think everybody really needs to make sure that you're not aging. You want to be around as long as possible alive on earth. And while you're here, it's best to be healthy and fit so that the experience is less painful. You're in shape, you feel healthy, you're enjoying it. Anyway, in Philadelphia, where I live, there's a radio station called 94 WIP. It used to be an AM station called 610. So many people in this city listen to it. It's insane. It's the sports talk station. But this one guy called in, a lot of losers calling in to the Philadelphia, big loser town right now. The Eagles I'm a Philly guy. It's just losers all day long. Just,
yeah.
I'm sorry. This is I'm a pro on this station. I can talk about it. One guy in particular, they were like, he was talking about something, and then he was saying he was 57 and somebody was, and something was hurting. And one of the guys who's a former football player was like, you got to get back into shape. And he was like, oh, you expect me to start a workout program at 57? And I thought, of course. Like, what are you done?
Yeah.
Like you giving up?
You
Like you
tapped
just,
out?
like, yeah. So what do you do? Just like drink and eat potato chips? Like, are you just like, I understand, wanting to drink and eat potato chips, but you don't give up on making health priority number one. So that being said, the way that you introduce adding weight to working out is so that you can get stronger and more healthy and all the benefits that go along with that. I'm just going to grab this book. And then, so on Reframe Your Brain, this book that I've been mentioning on podcasts and the simultaneous sip, it's a good book. And I told you to read it too. But your take on the book, I can tell, is that you don't need to reframe your brain so much. In Haik's mind, is if you're putting up the weight and adding pressure, then that makes you better at dealing with pressure, which you bring into your workplace. And that's how you deal with pressure and push through barriers and innovate new things. And the vision becomes clear. So, I'm a dreamer. Like I love dreaming. I
Yeah.
believe all my dreams are going to come true. That's I've been that way the whole time. But the idea of adding weight to my dream when we're in Manhattan and we're, walking around talking about ARCA and the fact that we feel, I feel like everybody else is lying about the agentic workflows that they're implementing, because I am very involved in the implementation of our agentic workflows. And when I think about how much I truly believe we're dominating the space, and you look at a specific skyscraper and you say, we want that, like how much fun would it be for that? You're adding so much weight to my dream, because it's not getting a building in Philadelphia. It's not getting an office in Santa Monica. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, can we get our own building with our own lanyards on,
Yeah.
Greenwich Street? So, so adding weight from that perspective to me is adding weight to the dream. And so I love what you said about that when when you were critiquing that book. I don't want to take that away from the book, because I just want to say all the reframes, the book opens up with alcohol is poison. And it doesn't mean that alcohol is poison for everybody, but it's just a way to rethink it. Like I said, to me, I read that, and to me, sugar is poisonous. Like when I have it, I don't feel good. I love it. I get tricked, and then I eat too much of it and I feel hungover from not eating Oreos, or, um, so it's being healthy all around. Um, Reframing the way that you think about it, but even the way that it stimulated a particular reframe. And my wife doesn't really watch the podcast, so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, my wife sometimes talks about, where a lot of people watching this are married, but your significant other just sounds crazy. You think this person is just crazy. And I thought, you know what? My wife is one of 5 sisters. And sometimes she just needs the big brother conversation that I had. My older brother, John, my older brother, Paul, Aaron, like, yo, dude, come on. You got to zoom out, think about this big picture, because everything's fine. And so whenever I think, gosh, she's going crazy, I just think, man, she needs a big brother talk, you know? And that was kind of a little reframe. So the reframes work for me, because that was a big significant one that I took out, because that's like my marriage, I guess. So if that makes it a little bit better, and if that one sticks around for a while, that's a powerful reframe. But
Definitely.
rambled there for a little bit, but I love your idea of, instead of reframing the situation, just hit the weights and you'll be okay. So,
That's it.
if you make that the center of your day, but on top of that, if you don't hit the weights, like, it's important for people to understand that, like, if you list something, it's going to get heavier and heavier. It should be heavier and heavier, so that when you actually pick up a heavy thing, it's lighter.
I think one of the biggest things is, yeah, adding the weight's a good one. But I think you also mentioned the other part with the agentic workflows. This year, I thought we were done with the agentic workflows, with people just dropping the agentic frame around like everything they're doing. And I think one of the things I talked about with Advise AI specifically was
Sorry,
that
I'm the dog down for a
we got
second.
we have a guest on the show.
Yeah, this is Diego. Yeah, he's just trying to keep him quiet so he doesn't bark too much. So if
All good. We didn't think we'd have a guest on this one, but we can bring one in just on the fly.
and most
But
of the time when I'm working, he sleeps beside me, and just that's how he stays cool.
he probably has a wealth of knowledge from just listening in on all the calls
He
you
knows
have at this
everything
point.
about client portals, aggregation, just all these things he's heard me talk about over the years. But go back to what you were saying about the agentic flows.
You're at the forefront with us with a lot of the engagements and implementations around the agentic AI, and I think myself with the team, we have a different understanding of what agentic AI means for us. And this was something I sent around to you and Pete the other day. A lot of folks, chat is great. You can have chat and you can have all this stuff. Everyone's going to have it at some point, etc. But people expect the AI to do work at some point. And that's where we've really doubled down. And we did the release on our side. We kind of publicly spoke about it on LinkedIn because we were so tired of folks coming out and saying, all right, well, I'm doing note taking and then I'm going to give you a summary of those notes. It's agentic. No, it's not. That's just a feature in your product because you're sitting on the notes. What would really impress me is if your AI agent can go across multiple systems and do the work required, not only for note entry, but actually do something like open an account, um, initiate a transfer, go ahead and do a trade, etc. And we're so far away from things like that for a couple of products that are out there that are pitching agentic that makes me really scratch my head. Like, we're at the forefront of building it. We have built it. And I can tell you that not a lot of firms out there who are saying they're doing it are actually doing it. I don't want to say they're lying, but using the buzzwords as required to kind of drum up business and everything like that. I feel it's a little in our space, a little wool over the advisor's eyes saying we're doing all this stuff. Because think of it this way, George, how many custodians are we talking to that are like, oh, why would you need this? Why do you need that? It's like, well, you need it for the agent to actually do that stuff. And then they're like, well, no one's asking for it. We know for a fact that no one's doing it yet because we're literally making the way. We're trailblazing through it.
Yeah,
So
I like what you said there. Like, you could be, let's even imagine you're a note taker and I say, okay, we have the notes about the meeting, cross-reference them with emails in the PST file that have been received and sent to that client, cross-reference them with data in the performance reporting system to write a summary. Now, while that may be technically agentic, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's technically agentic. But if there's no what you call execution layer to that effort, then what's the point? Like, I mean, it is very convenient and helpful. I don't want to say what's the point. I understand the point. That's really valuable. You've pulled systems together. You've given me some incredible insight, but now I have to do work. So from an enterprise standpoint, that's not useful enough because the people are all still in the loop. It's not one human in the loop. It's all the humans in the loop. And then to your second point, when we go to the major custodians, the agentic capabilities, there hasn't been anybody ahead of us because we're helping define the protocols. So
yeah,
it's just, that's how where I think everybody's, me personally, I'll say it, I feel like a lot of people are lying. So, I know I'm not lying because I'm part of the deployment. I can give you real granular details. And so, even with concepts that I started talking to you about, and this I've never heard, but I've been thinking a lot about when I explain, let's say, just call it regression, that there is agent maturity. And I use the example, I was talking to you offline about it, where I think about, like, I have 3 kids that span 5 years. So there's very unique ways of training each of them. And it reminds me of, training different agents where it's like, I told you this, I told you that. And there's regression with raising kids on an overarching fundamental values that every kid should hold, but also you each have individual responsibilities because you have 3 different places within the family: youngest, middleest, eldest. So there's unique attributes to each of the 3 kids. So I think that agent maturity is something that's not being discussed, but it's regression, but it's a part of what we do. And because of the regression exercises that I've been a part of, I don't think that anyone else is doing it. Not
I
what we're
agree.
doing.
I
Not what
agree.
we're
And I think about it. Speaking of your dog being there, Diego being there, it's
right,
kind of like training a puppy. And I've given this example offline for you as well. A
right,
lot of times, I had a German Shepherd puppy. My sister-in-law's family wanted a dog. This was around prior to COVID when they got the dog, but I ended up buying it for the kids. And because I was able to work from home, I was able to take care of the puppy and train it for the first couple of 6 months or so. And before it got big enough so it wouldn't run through their fence, basically, dodge out of their yard. And so every time I would take it for a walk in the morning, and then we would come back, and obviously they're hungry at that point, they want a treat, and then you can teach them a new trick because they're motivated, right? They have the drive. And each time, super smart German Shepherds are really good and receptive. She would pick up tricks pretty quickly. And when you would try to essentially go through the cycle of, hey, you have to do sit, bark, paw, whatever, everything, give me all these tricks, they get smart enough that they just repeat those processes thinking, I'm just going to get the treat at the end. So they don't even wait for the cues. They just start doing everything right away. So I would actually have to mix it up for them. And then you would see the thought process in their head where it's like, instead of sit first, you tell them to like give you the paw. They have to think, wait, what is this trick? So they'll slowly, when you throw them in for a loop, they'll have to actually do the thought process. With the AI agent, it's almost the same thing. If I give you a prompt of instructions, which we showed on LinkedIn, that video that we released, how we essentially can build these agents,
I love that video. Yeah.
on Arca, yeah, you can kind of like give them this instruction, right? What's going to come of it is after it runs a couple of times, you're going to have the operations team who was monitoring come back and say, well, it would be really good if it takes this other field that we can do this, and core script will do this other thing, and then we can run with this new field in this API endpoint. And we say, great. Now, when we put that new instruction, it still thinks, here's the process I got to do. And then you're like, well, here's the loop that I just threw into your workflow where you got to now look for this new field before you proceed for the second half. And so you have this operation that's going well. Once you include that new prompt, it'll regress a little to the success until it picks it up and starts learning that, hey, I got to do this part of it as well. And that's a natural process for the AI agentic workflows to really do well in our space. To the point that no one's talking about it, is because it's such a limited scope of how they're defining agentic. It's not something that's replacing the process a human doesn't want to do. Instead, it's saying like, hey, here's a bunch of notes. I'm summarizing those notes. There's not much place that you could really mess up. There's no new instruction for it, really. So that's where I think, the curtain is peeled back on the show of agentic for a lot of other providers, where we can say, is it really agentic? Sure, by definition, given what's out there, but it's not really the next level, which is the execution layer that folks are expecting out of the AI world, especially in wealth
Right.
management.
But yeah, for me, agentic means an execution layer is there.
Correct.
Because
So,
I'm always thinking about it on an enterprise scale, and also even downstream the way they can help every advisor, but on an enterprise scale especially. I mean, I think we have a really good idea of the way that the end advisor is going to be using AI. Well, I think we know exactly how the end advisor is going to be using AI, but I even had to look up myself to refresh myself on exactly what is and is not about agentic, even about the way that I use AI from time to time, and what we're doing with Arca. But when we were in New York and you were talking about that execution layer, I was like, yeah, I mean that's it. That's it. You know?
and the vision document that, yeah, we talked about and I put together for our team, when you think about what you really want AI to do, and I don't want this to sound too philosophical because we do have a practical use case that we're using today and we're building into further, is you want it to replicate a lot of the operations that the human is doing. So if you peel back that vision and you go back and sit in that advisor's chair, what are they doing? They're logging into one place. Let's use the um, PDF example, right? They're getting a PDF for a new account form that they have to open, and they filled it in, all the details. Then they got to log into a custodian website, an X360, Fidelity, Schwab, whatever it needs to be. Go through those operations, copy paste those steps over, upload the documents. Then the account is going to be created. Then it's going to come back. And so there's so much of the human element of it where they're using their eyes to see, they're using their hands to click through stuff, they're using their brain and cognition to reason through things. Oh, this seems wrong, this name seems like it has an extra middle name initial that wasn't there in the ID, etc. I got to compare. All of those things are a perfect system, an organism working in tandem across all the systems. The optical nerve is being used to use stuff, that muscular system is being used to click stuff, etc. The AI needs to follow a step, an evolution just like that. And that's what we're discovering. When we created core script and it was like, hey, here's a bunch of documents to just pull values off, and then you put it into Adapar, for example, and your values are updated. Great. What do you do when there's stuff you don't understand? Well, a human has to reason through it. So there needs to be a protocol from this PDF, a human reasoning through it, and then doing an action with that same process. So it's a cycle, and that evolution needs to happen. And I think generically, around the agentic work that ChatGPT, OpenAI, and all these guys are doing, it's a very wide net that they have to cast because everyone can do whatever. They came out with Operator who could book, tickets and do a bunch of stuff online. But the use cases we have are much more impactful. And humans are having to sit there and do those tedious tasks today, which I think the easiest way to adoption is to get rid of all the boring tasks that humans don't want to do. And that's where I think AI becomes the pivotal point. You can implement an AI to do a lot of the boring stuff that needs to be accurate and quick, and then you can focus on the much more interesting stuff for the humans to do, which is going to be what the advisor is going to transform to. It's about the relationship. It's going to be about the interaction. That's where, and I think we brought this up on after the Advise AI conference. That's where advisors don't want AI to play a big role in, at least yet. It's the interaction layer with your clients, which I completely understand. You want to avoid AI going rogue and saying stuff and doing whatever that then you have to respond to against your client. The same reason why we haven't been able to use AI for sales, and this is a big topic that pops up, is it's because the client and the prospect is having to put trust in the AI that they understand what they're selling them. It's the same
Right.
thing with a client and an advisor. If you're going to have to be trusting that the advisor understands everything you want from them from this relationship, then that's a human to human interaction. You can't have the AI be that layer of trust, at least not yet.
Right. Sometimes I feel like we've said it so many times, but I think we almost have to repeat it like every other podcast, is that we are eliminating the work that really sucks. Like this stuff that you have to do, you're like, what? I got to compare that. Imagine if you walk by somebody in the office, you say, what are you doing? They go, I'm reading this thing because I got to put it over there. Come on, man. So that's what we want to automate that stuff as quickly as possible. So people find that they have more time to be the unique person that they are, not stuck reconciling data between 2 points when the AI can find that, make a recommendation and give you decision support to execute yourself or to execute on itself. So we've been talking about that the entire time. And so another thing I wanted to say, shifting, you mentioned the vision document, and probably a good time to segue into even what might be 2 to 5 years down the road. But some of these, since I've really been getting obsessed with AI and the solution providers in our space that are calling themselves Agentic and extracting data from documents. Forget extracting data from documents. Document management in the AI system. When I talk to you, I realize more that documents should really be an afterthought. Like we extract the data from the document, then it can live on some dusty bookshelf that I never want to revisit ever again in my life, if it has to exist at all. Because once the AI system, in the case I'm talking about, ARCA, has consumed and extracted the data off the document, it has the intelligence about the document. So imagine if you had a client, me, and all the documents it extracted, you could just interact with ARCA about George and all the documents associated with George. I don't need the documents per se, not even to satisfy SEC Rule 17A4F. Like I need current compliance about the metadata, how it's stored, WORM format, all that stuff, those compliance rules, but you really don't, the document itself. And so many of these systems, I look at their website, talking about documents, the documents. I'm like, documents and PDFs are going away. Like, so,
100%.
and that was something that you had said. And even when we think about that, I always say what I learned about dealing with family offices and Adapar users is we're so used to in our space of having a relationship with custodians like Pershing, Fidelity, Schwab, where we get our data. But when you get into family offices, their money is at so many places outside of those three custodians. And those so many places, they give you your data in documents that then ARCA has to extract the data and turn it into transactions in this use case, Adapar that I'm saying. So we're that good with how we can extract the data off the document and use it in Adapar. We talk about the elimination of documents because ARCA has the data in that point. The whole reason we're getting the documents in the first place is because we need the transactional data to make a good performance calculation.
Yeah.
Whether it's coming from Schwab, Fidelity, Pershing, or whatever other weird source a family office needs or whatever anybody else needs. But that is when we need to calculate performance, we have to bring DTCC into the discussion. When you are doing a performance reporting deployment, you're talking about DTCC because they have the transaction data that you're going to need in a lot of cases. So thinking way ahead, I was talking about the elimination of documents, but to that DTCC data and stuff we were talking about on episode 1 was the tokenization of securities that your typical investor is getting through a brokerage account or some other way. And when you and I talk about crypto, we talk, and crypto is it's a self custody thing. It's an agency thing. I'm the custodian. It's in my wallet. It's my money. I can buy it whenever I want, anytime, 24/7. And our traditional markets lack that convenience. And so, all these investors who are pouring their money into the markets are just waiting for that market to open if they want to participate in it. So by
Yeah.
DTCC doing what it does, it brings that tokenization and it bridges that gap to make those assets available to everybody else who understands crypto and wants to grab it, but also the availability of the data that I'd love you to talk about, on just the performance data and the DTCC data and what that means.
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
talked about this in the initial episodes for sure. And tokenization was such a hot topic, still is. Obviously, with BlackRock coming out and saying that everything's going to be tokenized at some point. I think one thing to step back to kind of fully envelop the conversation is understanding what the crypto space really brings. Right? It's not just shit coins and all this stuff that exists and the altcoins and Bitcoin, etc. Really, it's a protocol, right? And you have Bitcoin, which is the gold standard. I don't want to take anything away from it because a lot of people view Bitcoin as the gold in the crypto space.
Just
It's
a blue chip.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's finite amount of it that's out there. People are mining it. There's so much of it that you can get and then it's done, right? You can't print more of it, etc. So the value is going to go up over time, right? It's a supply demand purely. Then you have tokens and the cryptos that are more on the utility spectrum. And they have a finite amount as well, but what they're primarily used for is payments, transferring assets, things like that. So they're really what more recently in DTCC news that has come out about tokenization, the non-action letter from the SEC, what it's saying is these are going to be the new rails of our financial system. Now, what's interesting about it is when you tokenize certain things, it's going to start with liquids first, and I think they're leading towards the second half of 2026. And then for sure, you're going to go into the e-liquid space, the alternative space. Currently, what the alternative space looks like for a lot of clients is PDF driven. Alternative
Yeah.
capital statements are coming in, capital calls are coming in. Yeah, it's all document based. And there's so many businesses out there that are focused on using the PDFs to do that feed, the data feed side of it, right? So, hey, we're taking all this stuff. For us, when we built CoreScript, it was out of necessity for our clients who were like, I don't want to do this manually. So we built a module that addresses that. There's entire companies that their business model is just based off of these docs. And here's why it's a little dangerous at this point. Because when the DTCC starts tokenizing assets, both the liquids and e-liquids, there's going to be a couple of things that are going to happen. One of them, it's going to go from T plus 1 and 2 to T plus 0 trade. It's going to be instantaneous because that's how fast money is going to be able to move. The second thing is going to be that the record keeping on the tokens themselves, it's going to be much easier. So anytime there's going to be a capital statement that's going to be issued or equivalent of it where the value changes, it's going to be an instantaneous change in value that's going to hit everyone's wallet, whatever they're holding it in. Same thing with transactions. Whenever they're going to be asking for money, you're going to send it. It's going to be by crypto. It's going to suddenly reflect what that new value is. Distribution is going to suddenly be reflected. So the delay in these statements where you need to wait until 9:30 for it to come out, and then a month later someone's going to key it in after for that 9:30 valuation, etc. We're going to minimize that time delay. Everything's going to be much quicker. Everything's going to be much more fluid. Obviously, this is a couple of years down. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But when things like that start happening, I think you're going to find out very quickly if your system is set up to be able to handle something like that. Because I can tell you now, knowing what the portfolio reporting systems out there look like, they're not ready for it yet. So there's going to be this tech that they're going to have to go through where people are still going to maybe have to work off of PDFs, and then you're going to have other advisors saying, well, this comes instantly here, etc. And then it's going to be this big fight for who's actually got it right. But I think that's where we're going to be trending towards. It's going to be the death of the PDFs entirely in the alts market, e-liquids market. So I'm interested in what that looks like. With some of that same news, um, I'm a big, full disclosure, I'm a big believer in that payment system, and Ripple is one that, with the XRPL, their ledger, they're doing a lot of that. They, with Fidelity's digital assets, got conditional approval from the OCC for having a national trust, basically be able to house digital assets for their clients. And I think that's the news that in the wealth management space, obviously being with Fidelity, I mean, Schwab is going to go after that same thing if they haven't already. You're going to have all these custodians providing you with a way to have digital assets custodied. And that's going to be opening up for crypto and everything else. Vanguard for a long time called and said that, Bitcoin is speculative and, we're not going to support it. Now they are giving access to all their clients in Vanguard to be able to purchase all the spot ETFs that are out there for cryptocurrencies. So it's crazy how fast that's changing. And I think that's due to Paul Atkins at the SEC just changing the narrative from, Gary Gensler, who had a war on crypto
Right.
specifically. And we were slipping. Think of it this way. There's countries that are much more ahead than us in the crypto space because it's a much more efficient capital market for them, given where they are from a traditional banking space. And I think the US doesn't want to go behind on the crypto space, and they don't want to go behind on the AI space, which is exactly where we should be, at the forefront of it. So I think there's a lot happening. I think wealth management shouldn't sleep on those news. I posted something about the DTCC. I think a lot of people are still kind of confused as to what that would mean for them. But yeah, wealth management, I think, will be affected for sure. Our entire industry is going to have to deal with that new railing, the new financial system once it's out.
What percentage of advisors do you think know that there is a finite amount of Bitcoin?
I think um
20?
less. I mean, now I think mainstream, I would say, was much less before, maybe around 20 at this point with how much Bitcoin's been in the news.
Yeah. When you said, yeah, I was like, yeah, maybe 15 and a half.
Let me ask a much more probing question. How many advisors know what gas is for Ethereum?
0.01.
I'd be curious to hear. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Even when I told you before this call, Ron Carson, who we all know, he's had some mind expanding journeys. I'd love to talk to him about it. But he mentioned earlier on LinkedIn this week that he's buying Bitcoin every week. And why? Because there's a finite amount. Eventually, it's going to be gone and you're going to want some. So if you can anticipate today what everybody's going to want in 10 years, is what Michael Saylor calls the apex, is understanding what everybody with any amount of money will pay anything for. Like, you have the thing that can't be gotten anymore. It's like Bitcoin's so incredible in that. And then there's the downstream utility of all the other things that are less clunky, that make it easier to move crypto around. And then there's the excitement of meme coins, which I have fun with, because that's where I like to play with what we call casino money. So
yeah,
it's,
yeah,
maybe something will happen. I also, like I told you, I got my son, for his birthday, a little crypto, thing. But I think that it's a great opportunity to just watch it down. I have one that's up of those three. But yeah, I'm waiting for XRP to pump for him, because I told him, I'm like, yeah, that's the one Haik said.
yeah. Well, I think one of the you made a great point. So, like, here's the thing: the education around Bitcoin definitely needs to happen, and advisors need to catch up, right? Because their clients are going to be asking about it. Once Fidelity has digital assets up and running, they can house all this stuff. They can be like, "Hey, do I want to get into this?" And what Bitcoin should be is literally the gold standard. Bitcoin had a lot, it trailblazed through in the crypto space for a lot of folks, but the utility is really a much more important factor, in my opinion, that Bitcoin's protocol, the blockchain, just doesn't cover. And that's when you want to move a lot of money quickly. And that's what we're talking about. It's primarily when you boil it down to what the elemental point of, blockchain is. It's moving money quickly between two people or two market participants. And Bitcoin is slow and expensive when you think about it.
Right.
The same thing with Ethereum, because gas fees are high, and gas fees are what you're essentially using to process putting something on the chain on Ethereum. Same thing with NFTs. And there's a bunch of things that are called like layer one cryptos
Right.
out there.
Yep.
And layer ones are essentially what control the ledger, and what the ledger is based off of. Then you have layer two, which are built on top of it. So a lot of the NFT craze, if you do remember a couple of years ago, were Ethereum layer two things. And that's why gas fees were so high on Ethereum for sending money around and doing whatever, because there was so much activity on there. And then you have things like XRP, which are primarily used for onboarding, basically, ramp, on ramp, and off ramp of these cryptocurrency based values. And so if you want to send money across, it's going to take you like 0.001 XRP or whatever it is at that point. And then it processes a transaction. And I think they have the ability, or it's been tested to go up to like 1,500 transactions per second. So they're trying to really, gun it for the banking world and the financial railing system of just moving assets on and off. So everyone's just going to go after this space. You just have to be really educated in what all of these things mean. But I think, yeah, advisors who are now seeing it like Ron Carson, you're going to have to hold the coin that's equivalent to gold in the crypto space, which is Bitcoin at this point. There's
Right.
no way about it.
What are your thoughts on Solana, though? Yours.
Well, look, I think again it comes into the um what the utility really is. And I think Solana is really good on more the altcoin creation and the ledger
Right.
side of it. And I don't know if you just saw the recent news, XRP will actually be on Solana as well. They'll have XRP be on there because they have such a big market in the DEX space. DEX space being more of the
Right.
altcoins that are out there.
Right. That's why I like holding Solana, because a lot of the action that where the casino money is thrown around is on Solana.
It's easy to deploy a token on there. That's why. And they do it on purpose, right? You want to kind of like allow others to do it. Obviously, there's bad actors in the space. We all know about the scary stories of rug pulls and things like that who
I feel like
influencers are in.
you take it so personally, and because like you feel like the rug pull seems so personal, because as soon as you buy it, you get rugged, and it's like, what, were they waiting for me? Is it
Yeah.
just? It's,
Yeah. But
um,
and then you have on the flip side, each coin, there's going to be a very successful couple of ledgers, right? Protocols that do really well. I think on the XRP front, on the XRPL, it's primarily led by Ripple behind it. And Ripple's made a couple of different acquisitions. They've done G Treasury, which is for corporate treasuries. They've done Rail, which is for stable coins. They have their own stable coin, RLUSD. So it's what they call the banker's coin, because it's primarily built for the infrastructure of traditional finance going into DeFi and bridging that gap. But Solana's going to be the consumer side of it, right? And I think the Ethereum is going to be a little of both, because you do have like BlackRock and everyone talking about it. And then Bitcoin is just going to be the gold standard. So you're going to have, I think, like top five ledgers that are going to do really well, that are going to be the future of what financial systems look like. And then you're going to have the gold standard, which is going to be Bitcoin. And that's how our traditional finance has to evolve to kind of accompany for those guys, make space for them. But before, it's crazy how a lot of the people in the wealth management space denied, Bitcoin being a legitimate asset.
and
So
even for one of the things I think we said on episode 1 or 2 of this podcast, I'm like, I mean, we all know what Coinbase is, but Coinbase to me, there's like a different, but almost a companion app called Phantom. So you get into Coinbase, you deposit your money into Coinbase by linking up your bank account. And once you have money in Coinbase, let's say you buy some some Solana, some SOL. And then once it's there, you copy and paste the address from your Phantom Solana wallet and you move the money into Phantom from Coinbase. And once it's there, you can then buy your fart coin or whatever coin is trending and, lose your money. So,
yeah,
but it's
you're just pumping Fartcoin at this point on the
no,
podcast.
but like, like what else are like, I'm pretty busy, whether it's working or just being a dad or running around. But like when I have time, sometimes one of my favorite things to do is just if you go to DEX, you can see like what coins are trending, and then you go into Phantom and you buy it, and then you just watch it and your heart's sinking. But sometimes like something's pumping. But I don't recommend that at all. This isn't financial advice, but if you want to go lose $50, that's a really fun way to go lose it.
Tuition.
Yeah,
It's
what's that?
tuition. It's tuition. End of the day, it's a very cheap way to learn about crypto very quickly.
Right,
So
exactly. You'll learn that, yeah, you're just going to get rugged, not be greedy, understand just a very concentrated portfolio, as opposed to wealth management, we're so focused on spreading things out everywhere. I think it's more, just like investment, have your conviction and stick to those coins. You
yeah.
know,
So there's white papers out there for multiple coins. They put it out. Read the white papers as well. One very popular thing that we always say in the space is learn what you're holding, or know what you're holding. So learn about it. And there's so many white papers that are highly accessible across any website you go to. So if you go to like CoinGlass, whatever, Dex, on Dex, if you log in, I'm sure they have links on the white papers for them as well. You can learn about the coins you're holding and really understand about the protocol. Sometimes they're really high in the cryptography space. They're talking about different things, etc. So, you can gloss over those, and there's a lot of terms you might not get, but you can read about those white papers and understand what they are, because I think just being more educated in this space is going to be what the next couple of years look like in wealth management. And I'm not talking about, again, just the speculative aspect of holding a coin, but also the utility aspect. You'll read and understand why maybe the Bitcoin's protocol is probably not the best for your alts updates. Maybe it's going to be something else. But as you look through stuff, you'll understand how quickly the world is transforming in the financial market.
and you'll understand, especially advisors, about the kids who are, let's say, in their 20s today, who understand crypto and the speed and transparency at which the money moves. That will be expected in 10 years from those people that hopefully a lot of them will have millions and they'll be clients of the advisors today. Um, maybe they won't. But I think that speed and that expectation, advisors just need to get. Even if you think you missed the gain in Bitcoin, whatever, maybe if it goes to 300,000, that's a 3x. But to hold some gives you exposure to the world of crypto, where you see other things where it's not necessarily about the gain as much as holding the asset as you might gold or a commodity. But in this case, it's just crypto. It's you have the thing that is limited and just get a little bit more of it whenever you can. Um, so, sometimes I think that people feel discouraged that they missed that big gain, but there's new things that'll be happening. You have to expose yourself to, the market. It's like watching somebody play Texas Hold'em or gamble in Vegas, right? You're standing behind them. They might be big stack, and you feel, I can't get on that table. Look at this guy's big stack. Somebody can go up to that table and take that guy's big stack. And the only way you're going to get a chance at like getting that good is by just keep sitting down on that table and getting your ass kicked. That's where you learn about crypto and what you should actually hold. So, like I said, I think it's important to pick tokens where you have conviction that you want to hold on to forever. It's not something, you don't buy crypto to, make a gain and sell it. The same way we don't preach, and you want to be more passive than active in your crypto selling. You know what I wanted to ask you? I love
Sure.
Nick O'Neill. He's this one guy on X that I follow a lot. He's like a developer, a geek. He's got this fake personality, but he talks
Yeah.
about how he bought Bitcoin at 100. But then he'll admit, yeah, and then I sold it because I didn't think it was going to go to like, he still had certain coins where he made a couple million. Like he had a $2,000 bet that went to like 2 or 4 million, something like that. But as far as like, even though like that major gain isn't there, just like the exposure to everything that's happening in the crypto market, I think is just important to understand the next generation of investors that's coming up behind us. If you bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin in 2011, like, when would you have sold it? 5 million, 50 million? I don't understand. So these people that, just to get all crazy for a second, these people that HODL, which is HODL, hold on for dear life. that bought in at say 50,000 or 2 million, and now they have like $1 billion. You're like, who holds past 500 million?
I've
Unless this
thought
is
of
a
that.
CIA asset, and there's something shady. But there are people obviously that were in on the project early that we know about, that were around Satoshi transaction and all that. But yeah, it's how to. I think, oh man, if I just gotten in early, and that's the point I started to make. You can't let that eat you up like you missed the game, because you would have sold anyway.
Yeah, I've thought about the that question a lot, and I think the ideal case that you want to happen is this. You got into Bitcoin way early on when it was cheap, right? You lost your thumb drive somewhere, and then you find it yesterday, and then now it's worth however much it's worth. If you had access to it between then and now, I'm sure you would have been out of there way earlier than you expect. No one is holding that long unless you have some conviction about the coin, which at Bitcoin was so all over the place. I doubt anyone did. So whoever had, and here's where I think this is my philosophy around the crypto space. When you put things on an exchange, and people are going to probably think after this podcast, like Haik's a doomer around the crypto space or whatever, but I'm against putting things on an exchange like Coinbase, Kraken, etc. Unless you have an intention to hold it for a very short amount of time, or you're just looking to liquidate. Instead, I like it to be on a private ledger, so then you can hold on to it, and you only know where it is, and that's it. No one can touch it. And the reason for that is because if the price moves around like this, and I'm sitting on it and I see it in the exchange, the tendency and the attractiveness to sell really quickly is there, right? Because you can just log in, sell it right away, and you're like, oh, okay. But then it could still run up. So if you have conviction for the coin, why even put it on exchange if you're planning to hold it for a long amount of time? And that's why I prefer to just put it onto a ledger device, and that's it. It's off the exchanges, and it's not as easy to reach to sell it
Right.
on a whim. And that's
Cold
why
store.
yeah, because it's more of a discipline, because I know exactly what you're asking, and I've been down that thought process. If you had 1,000 Bitcoin or $10,000 worth of Bitcoin from 2011 or whenever you had it, you would have been out of the market way sooner. It might have just gone up 10%, and you would have been like, great. It's kind of like the guy who bought the pizza with 27 Bitcoin or
Yeah.
whatever it was at the
My
time.
thought on that guy is that he had 100,000 or something, because he didn't
They
seem fake.
they did an interview with him after, and he doesn't look happy. I mean, how could you? But, if you had at the time, and someone just it was a token novelty thing, and I'm sure the guy who did that, who bought, got his 27 Bitcoin out of the market already. It might have gone up like 10% and 20%. He's like, "Oh, this idiot that gave me this for his credit card, that he just charged on for pizza. Now, he's probably sold out of it." So that's the thing, like I think if it's on an exchange, it's easy to sell, easy to reach. You have a tendency to probably get out of the market much sooner than someone who has a higher rate of conviction, like the Satoshi transactions, everything like those things are held off exchange somewhere. So a lot of times when they get re-enabled, you'll see like them move a bunch of money onto an exchange and sell it. It's someone who's bringing it back into an exchange and then planning to liquidate it at some point.
Right. I met a guy who he bought his Bitcoin. He's a big executive at a company we all know, but he bought his Bitcoin at 13. He sold his Bitcoin at 16.5 to renovate his bathroom. It was a Bitcoin, whole Bitcoin. But he was like, yeah, I figured, I'll use the Bitcoin to do it. I wasn't going to keep going. And he's like, man, that'll always just be my Bitcoin bathroom. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that hurts. But,
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's to each their own, right? Like some people, I know some people who liquidated XRP at around 50 cents. They were like, this is never going to go up, and they'll liquidate it. And it's been sitting around $1. It went all the way up to like, $2 and something. So
I went to like 348 or something, right? I think
yeah,
I was.
yeah. So there was, and then it's come down since, but it kind of bounces around. But again, I follow those projects and everything really closely. But a lot of people, like I know, who even knew it was going to run up, and they're like, I just need the money, so I'm just going to get out of it. I'm take my gain. You can't fault them. So
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I've done it. I've done it. It's like those were like the pandemic years where it was like all I was trying to do was like make money to buy more Bitcoin. So use like make a gain, buy some Bitcoin. It's just very difficult. It's a very difficult strategy.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
you're just looking at charts for 12 hours a day. So it's like you better be making money. You're working all day.
Yeah.
So, it's so but it was fun. That was like when Clubhouse came, like Clubhouse was new, that app incredible. That was before spaces were on X, and it was
Now
such
that's
a
the
good
place to
time.
be.
Yeah, exactly. I've been thinking that we have the simultaneous SIP, but we need to incorporate some of these X spaces I've been thinking about as well. Funny you just brought that up, but like I really want to, because we could do some cool spaces on X. We can't do that with LinkedIn. So I thought that would be a cool place. I know we can do it with
It's just
Riverside
our
as well.
market. I think with a lot of the advisors, a lot of them are still on LinkedIn, and that's kind of necessity for why we're there too. But yeah, X is definitely an interesting market to be in. But I was gonna say, with the release of this podcast, this episode, I'd love to hear from advisors and the millions of listeners we have. Like, what's your take on the crypto side? Like, do you think, are you someone that's coming running up against Bitcoin? Ripple, XRP, Ethereum, like, are you hearing about this? Are your advisors asking about this? I'm curious to hear, and I'd love for our next guest to potentially be from that space, because I think there's a lot of interesting takes we can get from someone who's in it. I think there's some folks I've ran into who brought on early on, like, advisors into the crypto space, but it was more kind of the traditional setup of ETFs and things that they were potentially managing, or like SMAs they were managing for them. I'd be curious to know how that's transforming as well and what they're seeing next. But would love to hear from listeners, you know, what does the world look like out there for you, specifically around crypto and blockchain and Bitcoin, and what your clients are asking for. So
Yeah, I think our next guest, which we were talking about right before the show, will have to be leaning crypto. I think that
do it.
that that would be interesting. We could do a lot. Still want to see if I can get Ron Carson on here because I got some questions for that guy. Maybe ask him some of his weekly Bitcoin purchases. But really do want to work to get him on. But it would be fun to get. We've had some crypto SMEs reach out. But yeah, we'll have to make that an emphasis on the next podcast, especially with this DTCC stuff. That's bigger, I think, than anybody really gets yet in our space. But I think we'll all learn pretty quickly.
Awesome. Well, George, thank you again for joining us
Yeah,
on episode 16 and the millions of listeners. But thanks everyone for listening in. We will probably, I'm thinking about maybe do a holiday episode in between now and then, and we'll see if it's with a guest or not. But thank you so much for the time, and looking forward for the next one.
amen. Thank you, everybody.